A lame duck president named Joe Biden has started a hot war with arguably the world's most dangerous country. And somehow, we're not even talking about it. We're worried about the bathroom controversy. We're obsessed with Trump's selections. We don't pay attention to the things that matter. Russia, it's been reported, has started mass producing mobile bomb shelters that are designed to protect against nuclear shock waves, radiation, and conventional threats for up to 48 hours. And that's all thanks to Joe Biden, who decided it would be prudent in the final weeks of his presidency to give Ukraine permission to fire long-range missiles for the first time ever into Russia. These are missiles provided by the United States. Now, Putin has threatened nuclear retaliation for such a move. Ukraine used something called the Army Tactical Missile System to strike an ammunition storage facility in Russia. This is the first time ever that Russia has used U.S.-provided long-range missiles into Russia. Now, let me break it to you. This is the absolute best reason to celebrate the re-election of Donald Trump. They love to mock him as a Putin stooge and an ally, and he loves dictators and all this other nonsense and all this crap. You know what we don't need is World War III. You know what we don't need is Russia and the United States entering a nuclear war. And for people to be looking the other way and not paying attention to this horrific story, and I call on Speaker Johnson, and I call on Republican leaders to talk about this, to address this with the American people. How could there not be a clarion call sounded by Republican or Democrat leadership for that matter? Heck, I don't care if Hakeem Jeffries starts stomping around and talking about it. Somebody ought to be talking about this. The Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, said this is a signal that Ukraine wants escalation. Russia has been warning Ukraine, do not use long-range missiles against us. We'll consider that an attack by NATO and would lead to a clear response. Don't know what that response will be, but I sure hope and pray we don't have to go back to building bomb shelters in the United States. It's a huge, huge story. And we got many things. We got to juggle a lot of balls in the air. I get that. We have a lot of things coming at us from all directions. I'm going to choose to focus on what I think are the things that matter, and this is one of them. To Democrats who might be engaged in our show today, how do you feel about the outgoing president escalating war between maybe the United States and Russia? Biden approved sending anti-personnel mines to Ukraine late yesterday. That's a reversal of the previous policy and yet another escalation in this conflict with Russia, weeks ahead of Trump being inaugurated. Ukrainian officials have reportedly promised to only deploy the mines in Ukrainian territory. The Biden administration's approval came on the same day that Ukraine has used American-made missiles on a strike on Russia's soil. Up till this week, Biden had prohibited that. Now he's all in. So Biden is clearly, I'm not saying this lightly, and I won't have to give a legal disclaimer like Sunny Hostin was forced to do in her hostage video. I can say this with great clarity. Biden is deliberately escalating conflict with Russia as a way to sabotage the Trump presidency. And we better get our act together. Republicans need to stand up and talk about this. Republicans have to do their job. Do you see the list of Republican senators who didn't show up and vote against another radical extremist judge? Now, here we go again. And so spare me all the drama about Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene and the bathroom issue. Look, there's a lot of important things we're going to have to digest, but Republicans got Trump's mandate and the Republican victory 2 weeks ago today, basically. We woke up 2 weeks ago with a big fat smile on our face. That smile is starting to get wiped off of our faces by Republicans failing to do their duty and show up and vote against another radical leftist judge. Had the Republicans showed up, that judge wouldn't have been confirmed. Biden is trying to cram as many radical extremist judges as possible through before Inauguration Day. And now we're seeing Biden escalate a conflict with Russia, maybe leading to World War III. And I don't hear any Republicans talking about it. What, is it not as sexy as who uses the bathroom on Capitol Hill? Is it not as provocative as, going to see the Elon Musk space shuttle? Or space launch, or whatever it is? There's some bad things happening. You got Pennsylvania Democrats who are committed to cheating in the election in plain sight, in broad daylight. We got a lot of things, and now it's time to call on Republicans to do their duty. 800-655-Mike. Bruce is in Pittsburgh. How you doing, Bruce?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm all for Mr. Getz having an opportunity, and what happened to innocent until proven guilty in this country.
Well, we know we know how the other side thinks about that. They don't think any of us are innocent.
Not at all. No, excuse me for interrupting.
No, it's okay.
The lame duck president, I think that's the term, is going out, and he talked about turning down the temperature. Now he's increasing it. And instead of telling his party to try to, let the confirmation go through, or at least let the process go through. And the thing with Ukraine, it's not his place, even though they want to hurry up and spend the taxpayers' money.
No, you're right. I mean, I want you to hear Glenn Greenwald. He was on a podcast called System Update. Listen to how he described what Joe Biden is currently doing with Russia and Ukraine.
This war has risked escalation of a very dangerous kind for a long time. Putin has been constrained, thankfully. And now Joe Biden, after his party loses the election, in part because Trump said we have to finish this war in Ukraine and get it resolved, in part because people are sick of endless wars, this decision by Biden is so reckless. It's so politically unethical. On your way out, as an 81-year-old man who doesn't really care that much about the future, you just say, screw it. Let the Ukrainians bomb deep inside Russia in a way that we or our European allies have to help them do it.
Now, look, Glenn Greenwald shouldn't be as important as he shouldn't be the guiding light on this. It should be Senate and House leadership. It should be Republicans who need to be calling Biden out for what he's doing. Because, again, Biden is apparently trying to start World War III and hand Donald Trump a giant mess. Why aren't more Republicans talking about it? Any ideas? All right, let's dive into something that has got me really, really deeply concerned. I saw a post from Tucker Carlson who wrote, "A lame duck president just started a hot war with the world's most dangerous country. All of us are very close to being killed, yet somehow the Republican Speaker of the House hasn't even mentioned it in public or in leadership meetings. What is going on?" It does seem stunning to me, KT. We've got Biden reversing his own policies with Ukraine, Now we got long-range missiles that we've provided being fired into Russia. We're hearing Putin saber rattling and talking about nukes. Is this as bad as Tucker characterizes it, or is there some hyperbole going on here?
No, it's as bad as Tucker says. Look, they're climbing the escalation ladder. The Biden administration is, and it's exactly what the Obama administration did to President Trump before he took office. 4 years, whatever, however many years ago, 5 years ago. And what they do is they try to set up a situation which screws Trump. It screws up any ability Trump would have to do negotiations over a number of things. They impose sanctions on Russia. Obama did, and they kind of try to tie Trump's hands. I think that's what they're doing this time around because, after all, it's the same people, it's the same staff guys. We all know Joe Biden isn't calling the shots. So I think what they're trying to do is any one of three things, and probably all three. Number one, they're trying to sabotage in advance any negotiations Trump might try to pull off between Ukraine and Russia. Number two, they may actually want the United States to get into a shooting war with Russia. And number three, they don't know what else to do. They want to sort of do something important. And so they're going to now say, okay, Ukraine, go at it, go fire into Russia. Now, the problem with it is, and where it goes off the rails, is that now we have American military equipment, American missiles that could potentially kill Russian civilians. And the Russians are going to respond as they normally would in an escalation ladder. They're going to now bomb Kyiv. And now the American ambassador in Ukraine has said to get all the Americans out of that embassy. We're sitting ducks, we're sitting targets. What happens 3 days from now if the Russians somehow fire into the American embassy or they kill Americans? Then you're in a war. That's the thing that the escalation ladder, the Bidens are going into this. They have no idea where this ladder leads. They're just climbing up that escalation ladder. And that's what has me very worried. We're now in a place where we could have something unexpected, unanticipated, which could escalate very quickly.
I'm just stunned, KT, and I really do trust you, and I respect your view on this. To consider the possibility that the Biden administration is deliberately doing this to start a shooting war between Russia and the United States, or to absolutely lead to this catastrophic conflict. They have to hate America so much to do this. They have to hate Trump so much that they're willing to jeopardize the safety and security of the American people. And KT McFarland, that's a level of evil that even I don't want to wrap my brain around.
Yeah, what they realize that Ukraine is not and cannot win this war. I mean, the Pentagon war games this stuff all the time. And they know that Ukraine is losing this war slowly, painfully, but it's losing this war. It's a war of attrition. In a war of attrition, the country with more people, more money, more weapons always wins. So that's where we are. And so what does the Biden team want to do? Well, they keep saying, well, we can't have a negotiated solution. I mean, it was Biden who was standing in the way of Zelensky negotiating 2 years ago. They don't want a negotiation because they think, well, that's going to reward Putin. Now, they don't have a plan to win, but they really don't know what to do. So they're going to go up the escalation ladder. And I think they're so haphazard that they could, in fact, trigger something bigger. Now, Trump has said he wants a negotiated solution. Even the Russians have said maybe we should. The Ukrainians have said, Zelensky has said maybe we should negotiate. There's a deal to be done. It may not be one that the Biden administration likes, but it's going to be palatable to both Ukraine and Russia. And then after the fighting stops, after the killing stops, as President Trump says, then you can start having a relationship, an economic relationship with Ukraine. Within a couple of years, $1 trillion is going to flow into Ukraine to rebuild it after the war. Meanwhile, nothing's going to flow into Russia to rebuild it.
KT, I mentioned the Tucker post. I think about Tucker and Trump vilified for being Putin's stooge, to being pro-Putin and pro-Putin apologists. Let me tell you something. Russia has nukes, and I sure do like the position that Donald Trump has, which is essentially, look, we got to get along with these countries rather than be at war with them. That's a normal response. And I'm just, it's coming, KT, in a way, it's coming full circle. I mean, here we go. with Tucker and Trump, way better position. President Trump is way better positioned to keep us out of harm's way than this dastardly Biden administration. You know, I got a lot of people texting me saying, look, get him out of there. Biden is going to cause World War III, 25th Amendment him, get him dead. It's way too late for that, right? We got weeks left before, thankfully, President Trump is inaugurated. Trying to remove Biden now is a pipe dream.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. You know, Biden hasn't been calling the shots for a long time. It's this blob around him. It's these so-called national security experts. It's supposedly the really good people who are qualified for these jobs. Those are the guys who are writing this stuff in the teleprompter. They're the ones in charge, and they were planning to be in charge if Kamala Harris became president. They know that Kamala Harris can't make these decisions. I mean, I've talked to some of these people and said, "Do you really think Kamala Harris is going to be capable of being president of the United States?" And they said, off the record, of course, well, don't worry. She'll have really good advisors, just like President Biden has, and they'll tell her what to do, and that's how the decisions will be made. So it's way too late to change President Biden or even Kamala Harris. These guys are going to do what they're going to do. The value of Trump is that he understands peace through strength doesn't just mean shoot everybody up with military strength. It uses economic strength. It uses trade as a weapon. He uses intelligence. He uses technology. He uses diplomacy as weapons. That's why the sooner Donald Trump gets in the White House and ends this war, the better.
Well, I hope you'll make a promise. It's been too long. Every time you're with us, we all get smarter. So, KT McFarland, please come back and join us again soon, okay? Because we need your voice now more than ever. Keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you. It's an honor. Thank you.
Appreciate you joining us. The great KT McFarland here on The Mike Gallagher Show. A lot more coming up.